Hello, and welcome to another episode of me reacting to fan-made cards I found online. But once again, I didn't find these cards online, they were sent to me by Rene Areo, and he sent me quite a few project cards, so we have a lot to go through today. So let's start with the first one. It's called Bribe Mayor. It costs 7 MC, it requires that you have a city tile on play. It grants 1 MC prot and -1 point. So immediately the cost is quite high. This is 7 plus 3 plus -5 plus 5 MC from the negative victory point. So 15. And for now you only get 1 MC prod. And then you get an effect which says when any tile is placed next to any of your cities, gain 2 MC. And I think in theory this is like a cool effect. You get a bit of insurance such that people cannot mess up your city placements. Like you get a city down and then they place like industrial center next to you, nuke zone, restricted area, whatever. Or they just convert greeneries next to you because you put your city down in such a way that they have to ocean walk next to you. But I think the effect is way too weak, especially for what the card costs and the requirement. I think people placing tiles next to your cities doesn't happen that often. Even if it does, it isn't that catastrophic. And 2MC is also not that much. Of course, if you spam cities like crazy, such that basically the whole map is covered in your cities, then it will happen often. But then your opponents probably also won't place that many tiles because if you spam cities like crazy, they are not incentivized to go for a ground game. So, in my opinion, there's not that much to say about Bright Mayor. I just think it's too weak. It probably should give more MC prot, be cheaper, or like the negative victory point makes sense lore-wise, so I would keep that. I would probably just make it cheaper and probably also give it an Earth tech or something like that. But also no tech kind of works and I like it. So probably just cheaper or more MC prot. So let's get to the next card immediately, which is Closeout Sale. This one is an interesting concept. It costs 0 MC, has an event tech and a negative victory point. It requires maximum of generation 8. So in the game without fan made cards, we don't have a requirement like that, but that's fine. Just introduce a new concept. Basically, you definitely have to count the generations. That's something we always forget. And you can only play it until generation 8. And it then says, discard your corporation, all your cards cost 2 MC less for the remainder of this generation. So basically you get not one time, but you get a 1 generation global discount of 2 MC for really low cost of 0 MC. But what you sacrifice is your whole corporation. Sometimes this can actually be positive. Like imagine you're playing Polyphemus, which has a negative, or Polyphemus or Mons Insurance both have actually a bad ability that is only so bad because you have a really great start. So they counteract they balance out the rest of the corporation card, which has already been deployed. So losing the ability would be great, but in all other cases, losing the ability would be bad. Corporation abilities tend to be quite strong, but they are not like super crucial. Like some corporations, like if you in generation 8, for example, lose the ability of, let's say, IC, which is like the 2 MC rebate on all events. IC is a good corp, that ability is quite good, but it's not game breaking. And maybe if you want to have a really, really strong generation, closeout sale could be quite useful and also be a net positive. I think if you have a good engine setup in Gen 8, then this could be quite positive. There's also games where Gen 8 is just the last generation, and then in the last generation, there's a high likelihood of you wanting a global discount, and also that you don't need your corporation that much anymore. Of course, if this is like a 13 Gen 2P game, you don't want to lose your corporation in Gen 8 for a one generation global discount. But I think this card is really, really interesting because two new concepts, removing your corporation, or actually three new concepts, removing your corporation, one generation global discount, and a maximum requirement that counts to the generations. I think you could probably give this like a global discount that relies on parameters, like on temperature or something. Of course, if temperature lags behind and gets maxed out as the last parameter, then closeout sale gets better. And if it gets maxed out as the first parameter, it gets worse. But I don't necessarily think that you need to introduce this concept up here, but it's also not that bad. I think this is an interesting card, but this is something that is really, really reliant on the situation. It's really, really like you can't say this is a bad or a great card. It depends on what corp you're playing. It depends on if you're going engine or rush, how many gens the game will take, and so on. But interesting concept. Next up, company dissolution. Okay, this is similar. Requires that you have a corporation, so you basically you cannot have played closeout sale. Discard your corporation. So again, you have to discard your corporation. You draw 3 prelude cards and play one of them, discard the other 2. I think this is too weak, honestly. What's the project card? World Government. Like Prelude 2 introduced a new project card. Let me just see if I can find that. Terraforming cards. Or maybe I can find it in my own cards list. Basically, Prelude 2 introduced a new is it called that? Yeah, World Government Project. That costs 9 and requires that you're chairman. So basically, you have to play with turmoil, and you draw 3 prelude cards and play one of them. So same effect, but it doesn't give a negative point, and you don't discard your corporation. It's a bit harder to play because you need to be chairman in turmoil, and you also cannot play it in Gen 1 because you will never be chairman in Gen 1. But you also don't want to discard your corp in Gen 1. So I think this is too weak because World Government Project is a good card, but not game breaking. And if that one is good and this has so much negative aspects, like negative point and discarding your corporation, this is just too weak. This would need to be cheaper and without the negative point, I think. Although the negative point again fits lore-wise, but again, still quite interesting, this idea of discarding your corporation. Next up, Deep Sea Microbes. I like when we get new power tags with interesting effects. I always say that. There's a power tag and a microbe tag. It requires an ocean tile down, costs 5 MC, and when anyone places an ocean tile, gain 2 energy. So it's a more difficult to play and but similar version of or similar card to Arctic Algae, where you get 2 plants. Obviously, 2 plants are much better than 2 energy. 2 energy can situationally be quite useful. For example, if you're playing with colonies and want to trade, or for action cards like Development Center or the bumpers. But honestly, you cannot really rely on this because it's really expensive to place an ocean yourself each gen, and you cannot really rely on your opponents doing it. And for trading and like the action cards, you really want continuous ability to do them. So basically, this is just 2 heat, with sometimes having a little bit more flexibility. And 2 heat is definitely worse than 2 plants. But this is also much cheaper, playable into the late game, but also not playable immediately because you need an ocean down. And that also means you lose at least one activation of deep sea microbes. I think this is balanced in a good way. I don't think it's too strong. It's definitely really handy and is pretty good for rush. Like if you get deep sea microbes plus Arctic algae in a rush, then you get plants and heat basically each time you place an ocean. That's really, really useful. But the great thing about Arctic algae is that you can use those plants to convert greeneries next to the oceans, giving you MC and more plants back. That's not something you can do with heat or power. But still, I like this card. And once again, I like power texts that give you something more than just power prod. Even though this grants you power, it grants you power in an interesting way. Another interesting power tech, Energy Consultant, also costs 5 MC. When you play a power tech, including this, gain 1 energy per power tech you have in play. So each power tech now gives you instant power as well, and it stacks. The more power techs you play, the more power you will get. This can get really strong, I think. If you play this as your first power tech and you play 4 power techs over the course of a game, you will get 1, 3, 6, 10 power. It's quite good. That's quite good. I don't think it is too insane because once again, power techs do mainly one thing. They grant you power and you don't need unlimited power. Power can be useful for playing power hungry cards, and as a power prod can be useful for playing power hungry cards, and power itself can be used as heat. But heat can get maxed out, and you draw also that only so many power hungry cards. So you don't have an unlimited use for it, not like MC. So I don't think this is too busted. Even like, of course, it grants amazing value if you play something like 7 or 8 power techs, but you don't want to play that many power techs. So I think this is great, and it's a really creative idea of incentivizing you to play more power techs and also granting power in a creative way, same as deep sea microbes. I really like it. Next up, energy entanglement. Costs 17 and has a requirement of 4 science tags, so same as quantum extractor. Also same tags, science and power tag, but it grants a point. When any other player increases or decreases his energy or heat production, immediately copy the same steps for the opposite production if possible. Okay, I understand. Okay, so if someone increases his power prod, you increase your heat prod in the same like the same amount. If someone increases their heat prod, you increase your power prod. But the same happens if they decrease their heat or power prod. And that's why it says if possible. But because if you don't have heat prod and they increase their power prod, you cannot decrease your heat prod, and then this card does nothing. Interesting. Okay. Um, I don't I don't know how strong this is. I don't know. Like in a 4P game, this can be completely ridiculous. Like people increasing their power prod and you suddenly get heat prod for free, or people increasing their heat prod and you get power prod for free. Um, the problem is that, especially playing heat prod yourself, suddenly is super bad because let's say you play Mohole area and then your opponents play a few power hungry cards. Suddenly you lose all of the heat prod that you just developed. Basically, you yourself, if you play energy entanglement, will never want to increase your heat prod mainly because that is the prod that gets reduced if your opponents decrease their power prod. And usually heat prod doesn't get decreased that much. There's only like heat trappers and cloud seeding. Also, you yourself should never play heat trappers or cloud seeding if you have this down, or energy tapping on PSC. I think this is too weird. I I don't know. And this is also something I need to try to see if it like it doesn't. First, my first reaction was this is completely busted, but then thinking about it, how annoying this can be to play with, especially for heat prod, you will get a lot of free, like in a normal game, you will get a lot of free power prod through energy entanglement because people just develop, like if you get this down early. Obviously, the 4 science tags mean you can't get this down like super early in Gen 1, so that each time your opponents increase the heat prod, you just get free power prod. And if you have this down, your opponents know about it, right? So they won't just gift you a lot of free production. They will now try to play around it. So I think this is more annoying for you if you play it yourself. I don't think this is that great, but this is something you really need to test because it's super complicated. Event Coordination Hub. Okay, this is interesting. 13 MC cost, Earth Tag point. It requires 5 event tags played. This is the only card that requires event tags played. There's only like Legend and Promoter on Vestitus Borealis that even count your played event cards. So this is something completely new. And then it grants basically media group on steroids. The cool thing is that you need to play events first before you can get this down, so you automatically miss out on value. Media Group and Optimal Arrow Breaking are already some of the best cards in the games. Really, really great combo cards. Events are already good. I think Event Coordination Hub is like a win more card. It's really, really good. I think but it also costs 13 plus 3. Let's subtract the 5 MC for the point. It costs 11 basically. So you need to play 3 events after this to pay back its costs. It's similar to Media Group, although after 2 events you almost paid back its cost if you subtract the point out. Maybe I think it's too much of a win more card. Events are already great. The event combo is already great. I don't think you need the same effect as Media Group again, but stronger. So I don't think this is too great of a card to add to your game. Fertilizers. Cost 6 MC, has no tags, and you can play it immediately. When you play a plant tag, gain 2 plants. I think this is also too much, and it makes the best tag in the game better. The plant tag is already so good because of insects, NRA, and the whole other part, or the whole rest of the green combo, like Decomposer Spiral and so on. I think this is just too much. It's also really, really strong. Like, play something like grass, you suddenly get 5 plants. Play bushes, you get 4 plants. A lot of plant tags, especially in the mid to late game, already yield instant plants. Obviously, like the strength of the plant tags that I'm always talking about, and the way you can use plant tags to get instant plants and convert into greeneries to rush, is something that you mainly do when playing with base game and preludes. And when you're playing with all of the expansions, suddenly the game gets like really engine-y and you can't rush that well anymore. Maybe Fertilizers would be a card if you're playing with all expansions that could help you do that. But still, I think the plant tag doesn't need to get that much stronger, and Fertilizers would make it a lot stronger. Inflation. This costs 2 MC, again has a negative point on it, is an event card. All cards cost 3 MC more for all players until the end of this generation. I think this is too broken. Play this in the last, like at the beginning of the last gen, and your opponents will have, as the flavor text says, a really rough time. Oh, wait a moment. I wanted to say what this card needs to do is have this be the case for all players, but the card says for all players, so also for you. Okay, then I like it much, much more. Because then it's a really situational card. Then it's only good if you know you're rushing and your opponents are playing an engine and they want to play a ton of cards. Also, you could probably punish people that are stalling a lot, especially in the last gen. Let's say you are playing a few big like point cards in the last gen, and then you're done after a few turns. You just play inflation as your last card. Your opponent stalled with stuff like tardigrades, search for life, selling cards, and then suddenly you hit them with the inflation. You pass, and they have to pay 3 more for each card. Then I like this much more because now suddenly there's a skill issue to it and how you use it. It still can be super nasty because in the situations in which it is good, it has the same problems as I thought it would have. You just get it down and your opponents suffer so much, especially in the last generation when they want to get a lot of cards down and they know there's like if you play this in the early to mid game, sure your opponents won't be able to do much in that gen, but they can just say, okay, well, I will play 1 or 2 expensive cards this gen that I really want to get out, and I will save the rest of my cards and my cash until next generation. But if it's the last generation, they can't do that. So I still think inflation is too strong, but I really like that it's for all players, and I think you could put something like this into the game, maybe make it a little bit weaker. +3 is really punishing. But really cool idea. But you need to be careful balancing this. This could be too busted. Jovian experts. Okay, this is cool. This is something that I couldn't imagine in a game. This costs 8 MC. It has a Jovian tag. It requires a Jovian tag and it has a point on it. And it's basically a 3 MC discount for all Jovian tags. So it's Space Station for Jovians. I like this. I think the Jovian combo, like in the expansion, gets a few good cards. Stuff like Jovian Lanterns is pretty good. Problem is you get no new multipliers, so you're playing a lot of somewhat good cards, but the real Jovian combo, what binds it all together and like got the Jovian text there, their identity is missing a bit if you're playing with all expansions because you just are not finding the Jovian multipliers. There's like 4 cards in a deck of 400 or something. And Jovian experts is something that could give the tag more of an identity again. If you get this down early on, it's much easier to get all of these cards down that you want to get down. But of course, there are also not that many Jovian tags in the game. They compare this to Earth Office. There's more Earth tags. And Earth Office, even if you subtract out the point, is cheaper and doesn't have a requirement. Gives the same discount. So Jovian Experts definitely isn't too strong. Of course, the tag has value for the Jovian multipliers, but so does the Earth tag for stuff like Cartel and Space Hotels. So I think this is a great idea to introduce something like this into the game, and I also don't think it's too busted. I like it. Pesticides. This looks a bit complicated. This costs 9 MC. It requires 3 microbe tags in play. It has a red outline, so it doesn't matter if you have these in play or your opponents. -2 points. Remove 2 microbes per player, including you. Okay, so each player loses 2 microbes if they can. I think that is what this means. So let's say your opponent has played Psychrophiles and has 4 on it, and you have played Decomposers and have 1 on it. Then he removes 2 of his 3 microbes and you remove 1 because you only have 1. And that's this stuff down here dealt with. And then the effect is when you increase your plant production, increase it 1 more step. You are not allowed to play any more microbe tags or accumulate microbes to any card. Okay. I see. Lore-wise, this is super interesting. You're using pesticides to grow plants more efficiently, but you're killing all of the microbe life with those. Interesting. The thing is, plant tags that grant you plant protection usually, and microbe tags and microbe collecting cards go hand in hand. Stuff like, again, viral enhancers, cycrophiles, decomposers, they combo really well with all of these plant producing cards that you want to get down. And not being able to play any microbe tags and not being able to accumulate microbes is really punishing if you want to go for these cards, such that pesticides gets good value. Of course, +1 plant prot each time you get plant production is quite strong, because like theoretically the value of plant production is 12 MC. Obviously, in the mid to late game, it should be less than that, because the 12 MC stems from Adapted Lichen, and that's really not that great early game plant production card. Also, the -2 points and the requirement is both quite punishing. This is again a super interesting card. Like the I really like the lore on this. This is like really creative. But this is something I really need to play test. Super difficult to evaluate. Again, like on the one hand, super strong effect, but then punishing requirement and punishing victory points, and then you have this negative effect that really is counterintuitive to what this card wants you to do. So I really need to play test this. This is super interesting. Next up, we have PhD in biomedicine. This costs 8 MC, has a science and a microbe tag. It grants 1 point and you gain 2 microbes. Oh, okay. And this is basically Mars you for microbe tags. When you play a microbe tag including this, you may discard a card from hand to draw a card. Let me just check. How many microbe tags are there in the game? So let's say all expansions, we have 56 science tags and 26 microbe tags. Okay, way less than science. So because of this, I think PhD in biomedicine is good, but not insane. Marziu can get triggered a lot. It could also be paid for with steel, so it can be super cheap even in the last gen. PhD in biomedicine cannot be paid with steel. The 2 microbes are nice. If you have something like Ants Down, this is even a 2-point card and a cycle card, and like a cycle, so it can be really good to play even in the super late game. But because there's so much less microbe text and science text, I'm not too concerned about the effect. It's still a really good one. But microbe texts, yeah, are more rare, and they are also usually not that strong compared to science texts. So I think this is okay. Interesting, really interesting. Phytologist. This costs 13 MC, has a plant tag, grants a plant pot and a plant, same as Heather. When you play a plant tag, you pay 2 MC less for it. I can tell you right now that this is too strong. Basically, this is Heather. Like, look at it. It's has a plant tag and has the same production and instant healed as Heather. Heather requires -14 degrees, I think. It costs 7 more, yes, but for 7 you get a 2 MC discount on the strongest tag in the game. This is too strong. It's just straight up too strong. This would be like an SSS tier in the first gen. Like if you get this in your starting hand, this is busted. Really strong. Again, I think you don't have to buff the plant tag that much, and Phytologist would be a really strong buff. Quantum computing. Ooh, interesting. It costs 14 MC, 5 science tech requirements, same as mass converter. Science tag and 2 points. When playing a card, reduce its cost by the amount of its tags. Maximum of 4 cost reduction, I think. For stuff like, what's the name of it? Ecology research with 4 tags that gets a discount of 4. I think this makes sense as like a global discount and a science payoff. Again, I think when playing with all expansions, the engine strategy as a whole and like the science strategy as well get a lot stronger already, with stuff like warp drive, all of the new really good space techs that get introduced, and colonies just makes engine better. I don't think we generally need more global discounts and science payoffs. But if you want to introduce a new science payoff into the game and then a new really good engine card, then quantum computing definitely is an interesting idea. And I quite like the concept of a discount based on the amount of text. That's quite interesting. Recuperation tag. This costs 8 MC, has a space tag. It grants a titanium and 3 heat if you play a space event. But if that space event includes an earth tag for something like imported nitrogen, then you get 3 MC and 3 energy instead. So if it includes an earth tag, theoretically the payback gets better because the 3 MC is theoretically more valuable or more flexible than the titanium, and the 3 power is also more flexible but not immediately as useful as the heat, except if you want to trade. Of course, there can always be times when like you have advanced alloys or unities in power, then the titanium is worth more than the 3MC. And sometimes you just instantly want the heat to convert into a temperature bump. And theoretically, this down here is better in like many cases. This is like similar to, what was the name of it? Event Coordination Hub. I just don't think we need more event rebates. Recuperation tag is just your event combo potential could just be off the charts with this IC media group, optimal air braking, and I forgot the name again, event coordination hub. It just could be too insane. So I think I'd like to get combo potential for other stuff that is not already part of the like one of the best combos in the game. Like the space event combo especially can be super nuts and is really, really strong. So I don't think we need to buff it even further. Space Observatory. This costs 13, has a trusty combination of science and building tech, like so many other cards. Has a point on it. It costs a power. Then it says, first of all, when you play a space tech, you pay 1 MC less for it. First space discount, that is just 1 MC. Interesting. And the action is spend 2 MC and reveal 3 cards off the deck. Draw all cards with a space or Jovian tag, discard the rest. So this is like Venus Orbital Survey from Predator 2, but for space or Jovian tags, and also a bit stronger. Or similar to Venus Orbital Survey. It's not like that. It's definitely similar though. This is one of the best cards in the game if you're going for a Jovian strategy. Easy as that. You get a discount on space tags, you get a science tag, which can be useful for getting more card drawdown with like AI or global discounts, which is super good in a Jovian strategy. And then you can really efficiently look through the deck and search for more space and Jovian tags. Really, really strong. I just said I don't really think we need more like science combo potential with stuff like quantum computing. But I think this one is fine because the cost is relatively high with 13 plus 3 and the power. And it's quite specific for the space and Jovian combo. So I think this one I'm more fine with, and it's quite interesting as well. Basically, letting you look for Jovian tags is quite interesting. You could maybe leave out, like, you could maybe make it cheaper, leave out the space discount and leave out the space in here and just look for Jovian tags. Of course, then it wouldn't make that much sense because it's an observatory. It's not only looking at like Jupiter and Saturn and stuff. So lore-wise, this makes more sense to be that way. But yeah, interesting card. Quite like the concept. I like the concept of looking through the deck for something specific. There's not that much of it in Terraforming Mars outside of a few preludes and Venus Orbital Survey and so on. So yeah, I like it. Specialized Raiders. This costs 4 MC and it just lets you steal 2 different kinds of resources from any player. From any players. So you can even steal from different players. So you steal 1 steel from one player and then 1 titanium from another. Quite flexible. Problem with hired raiders sometimes can be that this you can't steal steel because your opponent just doesn't have it. And stealing MC is okay, but if you're not buying the card in a draft and paying full price for it, then it's not like the most amazing deal. And specialized raiders is just so flexible that you basically always get something out of it. It also costs more. So if you get a steel and a titanium, let's say, you get that. You get 5 MC worth in value, but if you're paying this in a draft and playing it for full price, it costs 7. Of course, your opponent, like if it's one opponent, if it's a one-on-one, and your opponent loses 5 MC, and you basically, after buying and playing this and getting this, you still lose 2 MC, that's still great for you because your opponent basically, in contrast to you, lost 3 MC. But if you're playing a 3P or 4P game, then suddenly specialized raiders can get like can be a net negative card for you. So you probably want combo potential for this. Stuff like Media Group makes it much better. Because it's a cheap card, the impact of something like Media Group is quite high. But I like the flexibility you get from it. Ironically, I don't think this should be called Specialized Raiders because you can be so flexible with it. It's like Flexible Raiders, but that's a stupid name. So Specialized Raiders maybe fits better. And the last one today is Terraforming Sponsors. This costs 5 MC, has an Earth tag on it, and it just says each time your TR is raised, gain 1 MC. Funny enough, there's like only one one full fan-made expansion that I played so far, and that was High Orbit, and that expansion includes a card like this that you can also stack, where you can multiple versions of it, or multiple cards of it, and each you play gets you a 1 MC rebate on TR increases, and that is one of my favorite cards in that expansion. And I think Terraforming Sponsors would be amazing in a rush, really fun to play with, but I think quite strong if you get this in the early game. Think about games with like Unimai, Ecoline, Credit Corp, where you go for a rush, you easily hit like 55 TR at the end of the game. You start at 20, so you increase your TR 35 times. So this pays back 35 MC minus 7, 28 MC net positive. That's better than any other production card in the game. So I think this is too strong. If you get it in the early game, of course, if you get this in the super late game, it's useless because you buy it for 3, play it for 5. You will probably not increase your TR more than 8 times anymore. But as a combo card in the early game, I think it's too strong. You should probably slap something on there like minimum minus 20 degrees. Then you can play it in the early to early mid game, something like similar to Noctis farming. And suddenly this is much better balanced and still can be super satisfying for Rush players. But I really like this concept, and I think Rush can use a little bit of help if you're playing with all expansions. I just like this concept of getting a rebate on TR increases. I really like it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of these cards. And also, if you want me to review your cards, just hit me up in the comments. We'll find a way to exchange them, or link to like Reddit posts or other stuff where you posted them online. And also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. That would really help me out. And yeah, I hope you tune in next time as well. Have a good one, guys, and goodbye.